The vastness of space stretches before us, an endless canvas of swirling galaxies and cosmic wonders. Countless stars twinkle against the dark backdrop, each one a burning fusion reactor suspended in the void. Nebulae spread their colorful tendrils across light years, while galaxies spin in slow, majestic rotations that take hundreds of millions of years to complete. What if this magnificent cosmos is more than just a collection of matter and energy governed by physical laws? What if the universe itself possesses qualities we might recognize as life? This question has intrigued philosophers, scientists, and dreamers throughout human history. Consider for a moment the breath you just took. Air flows into your lungs, oxygen transfers to your bloodstream, and carbon dioxide releases back into the atmosphere. This simple act connects you to the trees outside your window, to the ancient algae that first produced our oxygen, to the very cycles that sustain life on Earth. What if the universe has its own version of breathing? What if cosmic processes mirror biological ones on scales so vast we struggle to comprehend them? Tonight, we embark on a journey of gentle contemplation. We will explore the tantalizing possibility that our universe might behave like a living organism, a vast interconnected system with emergent properties that resemble life itself. This is not a claim of scientific certainty, but an invitation to wonder, to see familiar cosmic phenomena through a different lens. As we float through this cosmic meditation, let your mind expand beyond conventional boundaries. Perhaps the stars and galaxies are not merely objects in space, but organs and cells in something greater. Perhaps the laws of physics are not just rules, but expressions of a deeper cosmic biology. The concept of a living universe has appeared in various forms across cultures and throughout time. Ancient peoples saw gods and spirits embodied in celestial objects. Indigenous traditions speak of Earth as a living mother. Eastern philosophies envision consciousness as fundamental to reality itself. Modern scientists explore complex systems theory and emergence, finding patterns that echo across scales from atoms to galaxies. We now have instruments that can peer into the earliest moments after the Big Bang, detect gravitational waves rippling through space-time, and map the vast cosmic web that connects galaxies across billions of light years. With each discovery, we find the universe more intricate, more interconnected, and more mysterious than we previously imagined. As you settle in and prepare for this journey, release your preconceptions about what constitutes life. Allow yourself to drift with curiosity through these ideas. Whether you find them scientifically compelling, philosophically intriguing, or simply beautiful to contemplate, they offer a perspective that connects us more deeply to the cosmos. The universe unfolds around us, perhaps not as a lifeless machine ticking toward entropy, but as something that grows, changes, and maybe even breathes in its own way. And we, made of stardust and consciousness, might be cells within this greater cosmic body, both witnessing and participating in its existence. Let us begin our exploration with an open mind and a sense of wonder as we ask, could the universe itself be alive? In our everyday experience, we tend to draw sharp lines between what is living and what is not. A bird soaring through the air is alive. The air itself is not. A fish swimming in the ocean is alive. The ocean is not. But is this distinction always so clear? Ancient cultures often did not make such firm divisions. They saw rivers as living entities with moods and personalities. They attributed consciousness to mountains and stars. Modern science has largely moved away from such perspectives, but perhaps there is wisdom in reconsidering them, not as literal truth, but as a different way of perceiving our relationship with the cosmos. The boundaries between life and non-life become especially blurry when we look at certain phenomena. Viruses hover at the edge of what we define as alive, unable to reproduce without hijacking the machinery of truly living cells. Crystal formations grow and replicate patterns, sometimes appearing to respond to their environment. Computer algorithms can now evolve solutions to problems that their human programmers never anticipated. Where exactly should we draw the line? When we gaze at the night sky, we see light that has traveled across vast distances and through enormous spans of time to reach our eyes. The photons from Andromeda Galaxy left their source 2.5 million years ago, when our human ancestors were just beginning to use stone tools. The cosmic microwave background radiation that our telescopes detect originated 13.8 billion years in the past, shortly after the Big Bang itself. We are not just looking out into space, but back in time, witnessing the universe as it was long ago. If the universe was somehow alive, its timescale would be vastly different from our own. What might appear as static and unchanging to us could be dynamic processes unfolding too slowly for our perception. The movement of tectonic plates seems imperceptibly slow to us, yet over millions of years, they reshape entire continents. Might the universe operate on timescales of billions or trillions of years, its processes invisible to our brief human lifespans? As we continue our journey tonight, we will explore how the basic characteristics of life might manifest on a cosmic scale. We will examine metabolism and energy flow, growth and development, reproduction, response to stimuli, and even the possibility of cosmic consciousness. We will draw on insights from biology, physics, complexity science, and philosophy to paint a picture of what a living universe might look like and what it would mean for our understanding of existence. The poet Walt Whitman once wrote, "I believe a leaf of grass is no less than the journey work of the stars." Perhaps he intuited what science is now revealing, that we are intimately connected to cosmic processes, that the atoms in our bodies were forged in stellar furnaces, that we are quite literally made of stardust, engaged in the ongoing creative unfolding of the universe. So, relax, breathe deeply, and allow your imagination to expand to the scale of galaxies and beyond. Whether or not the universe truly qualifies as living in a scientific sense, contemplating it as such offers us a profound sense of connection and wonder that enriches our experience of being alive within it. What exactly is life? This seemingly simple question has challenged scientists and philosophers for centuries. Before we can explore whether the universe itself might be considered alive, we must first understand what we mean by life at all. On Earth, we recognize living things through certain key characteristics. Life as we know it is composed of cells, the basic building blocks that combine to form more complex organisms. From microscopic bacteria to towering sequoia trees, from tiny insects to enormous blue whales, all living things share this cellular foundation. These cells contain genetic material, usually DNA, which provides the instructions for growth, function, and reproduction. But defining life purely by its physical components feels incomplete. A more comprehensive approach looks at what living things do, the processes that distinguish them from non-living matter. Biologists generally agree on several fundamental characteristics. Living things maintain homeostasis, regulating their internal environments despite external changes. They organize matter and energy in specific ways, creating and maintaining complex structures. They grow, developing from simpler to more complex forms. They adapt to their environments over time. They respond to stimuli, reacting to changes around them. And perhaps most importantly, they reproduce, creating new individuals like themselves. When we examine these characteristics more closely, we find fascinating implications for our cosmic question. Take metabolism, the process by which organisms transform energy and matter to sustain themselves. Plants capture sunlight through photosynthesis, converting it to chemical energy stored in sugars. Animals consume other organisms, breaking down their molecules to release energy. In both cases, there is a continuous flow of energy and matter through living systems. Could the universe engage in something analogous to metabolism? Stars consume hydrogen, fusing it into heavier elements and releasing enormous amounts of energy in the process. When massive stars die in supernova explosions, they scatter these newly formed elements across space, where they eventually become part of new star systems and planets. Is this cosmic cycle of energy transformation and element creation a kind of metabolism on a universal scale? Consider growth and development, another hallmark of living systems. A single fertilized egg cell divides and differentiates into a complex organism with specialized tissues and organs. The universe has similarly evolved from an incredibly hot, dense state at the Big Bang into the vast cosmic web we observe today, with galaxies, stars, planets, and the complex chemistry that eventually gave rise to biological life. This cosmic evolution follows patterns and processes that, while different in scale and mechanism from biological development, share certain fundamental similarities. Reproduction presents a more challenging comparison. Living organisms reproduce, passing genetic information to offspring that resemble their parents. Does the universe reproduce? Some theoretical physicists propose models where black holes could give birth to new universes, or where our universe might be one of many in a vast multiverse that continually generates new cosmic domains. While highly speculative, these theories suggest potential mechanisms for cosmic reproduction. Response to stimuli is another key characteristic of life. When you touch a hot surface, nerve signals rapidly travel to your brain, triggering a withdrawal reflex to protect you from injury. On a cosmic scale, matter responds to gravity, electromagnetism, and the other fundamental forces, forming patterns and structures. Galaxies interact through gravitational forces, sometimes merging to form new, larger galaxies. Is this a form of cosmic responsiveness? Adaptation and evolution have produced the remarkable diversity of life on Earth through natural selection acting on genetic variations. While the universe does not have genes in the biological sense, it does evolve according to physical laws, with more stable configurations persisting, while unstable ones dissipate. The cosmic structures we observe today evolved from quantum fluctuations in the early universe, growing through gravitational attraction into the complex cosmic web. When we look at ecosystems on Earth, we observe intricate networks of relationships between species and their environments. Energy flows through food webs, materials cycle through living and non-living components, and disturbances in one part of the system can have cascading effects throughout. The universe similarly consists of interconnected systems across multiple scales, from subatomic particles to galaxy superclusters, with energy and matter flowing through this cosmic network. Our traditional definition of life emerged from observing organisms on Earth, all sharing a common ancestry and similar biochemistry. Yet even within this limited sample, we find incredible diversity and numerous edge cases that challenge our definitions. Viruses, for instance, lack metabolism of their own, but can reproduce by hijacking cellular machinery. Are they alive? Prions, misfolded proteins, that can cause other proteins to misfold similarly, raise similar questions. These examples remind us that life exists on a spectrum rather than fitting neatly into discrete categories. If we step back from Earth-centered definitions, we might consider a broader functional approach to recognizing life. Rather than asking whether something contains specific molecules like DNA or cells, we might ask whether it processes energy, maintains organization against entropy, responds to its environment, evolves over time, and reproduces in some form. Under such expanded criteria, complex systems like ecosystems, planetary biospheres, or even certain computer simulations might qualify as living in important ways. This brings us back to our central question. Could the universe itself exhibit life-like properties? To answer this, we need to examine not just the individual components of the cosmos, but the emergent behaviors of the whole. Life as we know it exists not merely in the atoms and molecules that compose living things, but in the intricate patterns and processes they collectively form. The philosopher Aristotle proposed that life possesses an entelechy, an inherent purpose or directive principle that guides its development. In modern terms, we might speak of emergent properties that arise from complex systems. Consciousness emerges from networks of neurons. ecosystems emerge from interactions between species and their environments? Might life itself be an emergent property of particular arrangements of matter and energy? And if so, could such emergence occur at the cosmic scale? As we continue our journey through the night, keep in mind that our definitions of life evolved within the context of Earth's biosphere. When we apply them to the universe as a whole, we venture into uncharted conceptual territory. We are not necessarily claiming that the universe fits neatly into our current biological definitions, but rather exploring whether those definitions might need expansion to accommodate phenomena at the cosmic scale. The question of whether the universe is alive invites us to reconsider the boundaries we draw between living and non-living systems. Perhaps these boundaries are more porous than we typically assume. Perhaps life is not a binary state, but a continuum of organizational complexity. As we proceed, we will explore how certain universal processes resemble life's fundamental characteristics, challenging us to see the cosmos in a new light. The universe teems with creative processes, from the formation of atoms in stellar cores to the emergence of conscious beings capable of contemplating their own existence. Whether or not we ultimately decide to call the universe alive, examining it through the lens of life enriches our understanding of both cosmic processes and the nature of life itself. To understand how the universe might function as a living system, we must first explore the fascinating realm of complexity science and the concept of emergence. Emergence occurs when simple components interact to create something greater than the sum of their parts, something with properties that could not have been predicted by examining the individual elements alone. Consider water. A single water molecule consists of two hydrogen atoms bonded to one oxygen atom. This molecule has certain properties related to its structure and chemical bonds. But when trillions upon trillions of water molecules come together, they create phenomena like waves, currents, and tides that cannot be understood by studying individual molecules in isolation. The fluid behavior of water emerges from the collective interactions of countless molecules. This principle extends throughout nature. Individual neurons in the brain, each one a relatively simple cell capable of generating electrical signals, collectively give rise to consciousness, memory, emotion, and all the richness of human experience. No single neuron is conscious, yet consciousness emerges from their interconnected activity. Similarly, no single ant knows how to build elaborate structures with ventilation systems, yet ant colonies construct precisely such architectural marvels through their collective behavior. These examples illustrate what scientists call complex adaptive systems. Such systems share several key characteristics. They consist of many individual components or agents. These components interact locally according to simple rules. From these local interactions, complex global patterns and behaviors emerge. And perhaps most intriguingly, these systems can learn, adapt, and evolve without any central controller directing the process. The universe itself displays these exact characteristics. It consists of countless particles interacting according to the fundamental forces of physics. From these interactions emerge atoms, molecules, stars, galaxies, and eventually, on at least one planet, life itself. Each level of organization brings new properties that could not have been predicted from the level below. This hierarchical emergence creates what physicist David Bohm called implicate order, where deeper patterns unfold into increasingly complex manifestations. Let us examine some compelling examples of complex systems in nature to better understand how emergence might function at the cosmic scale. A hurricane forms when warm ocean water evaporates, creating rising columns of moist air. As this air cools, water vapor condenses, releasing heat energy that powers the storm. Wind patterns are shaped by Earth's rotation, creating the characteristic spiral structure we recognize from satellite imagery. No single water or air molecule knows it is participating in a hurricane, yet through their collective behavior, this powerful weather system emerges and takes on a life of its own. moving across oceans and continents. Ecologists study how the intricate relationships between species in an ecosystem create emergent properties at the community level. Consider a forest. Individual trees compete for sunlight and nutrients while simultaneously supporting networks of fungi that connect multiple plants underground, facilitating communication and resource sharing. Insects pollinate flowers, birds disperse seeds, and decomposers recycle nutrients. Together, these interactions regulate energy flow, water cycles, and even local climate conditions. The forest functions as an integrated system with properties beyond what any individual organism could create alone. Human societies demonstrate emergence in particularly complex ways. Our cities grow and evolve without centralized planning, developing unique characteristics based on geography, history, culture, and countless individual decisions. Traffic patterns, economic markets, language evolution, and fashion trends all emerge from our collective behavior without anyone deliberately designing these phenomena. Social networks spread information, ideas, and emotions in ways that often surprise even the individuals participating in them. What makes emergence so fascinating is how order and complexity can arise spontaneously from simpler components following basic rules. The mathematician John Conway demonstrated this with his famous Game of Life, a computer simulation where cells on a grid live or die based on just a few simple rules about neighboring cells. Despite its simplicity, this cellular automaton generates astonishingly complex patterns, including self-replicating structures. Similar principles underlie the beautiful complexity of snowflakes, each one unique, yet all following the same basic rules of crystallization. The universe exhibits this kind of emergent complexity at every scale we observe. Quantum field interactions give rise to particles. Particles combine to form atoms. Atoms bond to create molecules, which may assemble into cells. Cells organize into tissues, organs, and organisms. Organisms form populations, communities, and ecosystems. This nested hierarchy continues through planets, star systems, galaxies, and galaxy clusters, all the way to the cosmic web that spans the observable universe. At each level, new laws and principles emerge that cannot be reduced entirely to the levels below. Chemistry is not just applied physics. Biology is not just applied chemistry. Psychology is not just applied biology. Each level brings new organizational principles that must be understood on their own terms. The physicist Philip Anderson expressed this concept in his influential paper, More is Different, arguing that the ability to reduce everything to fundamental laws does not imply the ability to start from those laws and reconstruct the universe. This perspective challenges the reductionist approach that has dominated much of science since the time of Newton. While reductionism has produced remarkable insights by breaking complex systems into simpler components, it struggles to explain how complexity emerges in the first place. Systems thinking offers a complementary approach, focusing on relationships between parts rather than the parts in isolation, and examining how these relationships generate emergent properties at higher levels of organization. The cosmologist Brian Swimme suggested that the universe possesses what he calls cosmogenetic principles that drive increasing complexity throughout cosmic evolution. These principles include differentiation, the tendency to produce unique, diverse entities; autopoiesis, the capacity for self-organizing systems to maintain and reproduce themselves; and communion, the profound interconnectedness of all things. Together, these principles might explain why the universe seems to generate increasingly complex structures over time, from elementary particles to contemplative minds that can ponder their own origins. If we apply these concepts to our central question about the living universe, we might view life not as something that merely exists within the universe, but as an emergent property of the universe itself. Just as consciousness emerges from neural activity in the brain, perhaps life emerges from the complex interactions of matter and energy throughout the cosmos. Under this view, Earth's biosphere represents not an isolated phenomenon, but one expression of the universe's inherent tendency toward increasing complexity and self-organization. The biochemist Stuart Kaufman proposed that life exists at the edge of chaos, where systems are poised between too much order, which prevents adaptation, and too much disorder, which prevents stability. This critical state enables complex, adaptive systems to maintain themselves while also evolving in response to changing conditions. Intriguingly, physicists have observed that the universe itself appears finely tuned to exist at similar critical points between different physical regimes, suggesting a kind of cosmic self-organization. The concept of self-organization is particularly important for understanding emergence. In self-organizing systems, pattern and structure arise without external direction. Starlings form murmurations, creating breathtaking aerial displays as thousands of birds move in coordinated patterns. They accomplish this not through a leader bird directing traffic, but through each bird following simple rules about maintaining distance from its neighbors. Similarly, the spiral arms of galaxies self-organize through gravitational interactions between stars and interstellar gas, without any external blueprint guiding their formation. Perhaps the most profound example of emergence in our universe is consciousness itself. From the physical interactions of neurons emerges the subjective experience of being aware, of having thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. How exactly this happens remains one of the great mysteries of science. Some philosophers and scientists have proposed that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the universe, present in some form at all levels of reality. This view, known as panpsychism, suggests that mind and matter are not separate categories, but different aspects of the same underlying reality. As we contemplate the enormous web of relationships that constitutes our universe, from quantum fields to galaxy superclusters, we might wonder whether the whole system displays properties that cannot be reduced to its parts. Does the universe, as an integrated whole, possess emergent characteristics that we might recognize as lifelike? Does the cosmos not merely contain conscious beings, but manifest a kind of consciousness itself? These questions lead us beyond conventional science into philosophical territory, yet they emerge naturally from our understanding of complex systems and emergence. The biologist Lynn Margulis, who pioneered the endosymbiotic theory, explaining how complex cells evolved from simpler prokaryotes, suggested that Earth itself functions as a living system through what is now known as the Gaia hypothesis. In this view, Earth's biosphere, atmosphere, oceans, and soils form an integrated, self-regulating system that maintains conditions suitable for life. Might the universe similarly function as an integrated, self-regulating system that maintains conditions suitable for the emergence of complexity, including life and consciousness? As we drift further into our cosmic contemplation, we begin to see that the boundary between living and non-living systems becomes increasingly blurred when viewed through the lens of emergence and complexity. Perhaps life is not a binary category, but a continuum of organizational complexity, with the universe itself representing the most inclusive level of this nested hierarchy. In our next chapter, we will explore how energy flows through this cosmic system in ways that might resemble metabolism, the fundamental process that powers all known life. Metabolism stands as perhaps the most fundamental characteristic of life as we know it. At its core, metabolism is the process by which living organisms acquire energy from their environment, transform it to power their activities, and release waste products back into their surroundings. This continuous flow of energy and matter sustains the intricate organization that distinguishes living systems from non-living ones. The question before us now is whether the universe itself might engage in processes analogous to metabolism on a cosmic scale. Let us begin by examining metabolism as it occurs in familiar living systems. A sunflower turns its face toward the sun, capturing photons through the chlorophyll in its cells. Through the remarkable process of photosynthesis, the plant converts light energy into chemical energy, stored in glucose molecules. This energy powers the sunflower's growth, reproduction, and maintenance. As the plant respires, it releases carbon dioxide and water vapor back into the atmosphere, completing a cycle of energy transformation. Animals operate on similar principles but with different mechanisms. A lioness stalking the savanna obtains energy by consuming other organisms. Her digestive system breaks down the complex molecules in her prey into simpler components that can be absorbed and utilized by her cells. Within those cells, mitochondria serve as tiny power plants, converting nutrients into adenosine triphosphate, ATP, the universal energy currency of life on Earth. This energy enables the lioness to run, hunt, maintain her body temperature, and reproduce. Her metabolic processes release carbon dioxide, water, and other waste products back into the environment. In both plants and animals, we observe a consistent pattern. Energy is captured from the environment, transformed into forms useful for maintaining organization and performing work, and eventually dissipated back into the surroundings. This flow of energy allows living systems to create and maintain order locally, even as the total entropy of the universe increases in accordance with the second law of thermodynamics. Now let us shift our perspective to the cosmic scale. Stars serve as the primary energy transformers in our universe. Deep within their cores, hydrogen atoms fuse together under enormous pressure and temperature, forming helium and releasing tremendous amounts of energy in the process. Our Sun converts approximately 4 million tons of matter into energy every second through nuclear fusion. This energy radiates outward, eventually reaching planets like Earth, where it powers nearly all biological processes through either photosynthesis or food chains ultimately dependent on plants. As stars age, those massive enough will proceed to fuse helium into carbon, carbon into oxygen, and so on through increasingly heavy elements until they reach iron. Since fusing iron consumes rather than releases energy, this marks the end of a star's main fusion processes. What happens next depends on the star's mass. Medium-sized stars like our Sun will eventually shed their outer layers as planetary nebulae, exposing their dense cores as white dwarfs that slowly cool over trillions of years. More massive stars face more dramatic ends. When fusion ceases in their cores, the outward pressure that counterbalanced gravity disappears and the core collapses. This triggers a supernova explosion, wherein the star's outer layers are violently ejected into space while the core becomes either a neutron star or, if massive enough, a black hole. These cataclysmic events distribute heavy elements throughout the cosmos, elements that will eventually become part of new stars, planets, and potentially living organisms. Is this stellar cycle of energy transformation and element creation analogous to biological metabolism? Both involve the acquisition, transformation, and eventual release of energy. Both result in the creation of more complex structures from simpler components, and both operate within cycles that connect them to larger systems. The parallels extend beyond individual stars. Galaxies themselves appear to undergo metabolic-like processes. Gas clouds collapse to form new stars, while dying stars return matter enriched with heavy elements back to the interstellar medium. This galactic metabolism recycles material while gradually increasing its complexity. Some astronomers describe galaxies as having active and quiescent phases, similar to periods of feeding and resting in animals. During active phases, galaxies may undergo starbursts, forming many new stars in a relatively short period. During quiescent phases, star formation slows, while existing stars continue their life cycles. Supermassive black holes at galactic centers participate in this cosmic metabolism. These enormous objects accrete matter from their surroundings, generating jets of energy and particles that can extend thousands of light years. These jets influence star formation and galactic evolution, creating feedback loops between the black hole and its host galaxy. The relationship resembles how organs in a living body affect and regulate one another through chemical signals. The cosmic web itself, that vast network of galaxy filaments and clusters separated by enormous voids, can be viewed as a circulatory system for the universe. Matter flows along these filaments, drawn by gravity toward dense clusters, while less dense regions become more empty over time. Dark energy, that mysterious force accelerating the universe's expansion, affects this flow by stretching space itself, much as hormones in a body influence the rate of metabolic processes. Even gravity waves might represent a form of cosmic metabolism. When massive objects like black holes orbit and merge, they generate ripples in spacetime that carry energy across vast distances. These gravitational waves, first directly detected in 2015, transfer energy through the fabric of the universe itself, perhaps analogous to how electrochemical signals travel through neural networks. The concept of cosmic metabolism finds particularly strong expression in what physicists call dissipative structures. These are systems that maintain organization by continuously dissipating energy. Belgian physicist Ilya Prigogine, who won the Nobel Prize for his work in this area, showed how systems far from thermodynamic equilibrium can spontaneously develop complex organization as energy flows through them. A hurricane represents a dissipative structure, maintaining its spiral organization as long as warm ocean water provides energy. Stars function similarly, maintaining their structure against the force of gravity through the energy released by fusion. Living organisms represent particularly sophisticated, dissipative structures, capable not only of maintaining organization, but also of replicating it. Yet the principles remain consistent across scales. Both a cell and a star exist as islands of order in a sea of increasing entropy, temporarily resisting disorder by channeling energy flows. Both eventually succumb to entropy when their energy-transforming processes cease. The cycling of elements through cosmic processes bears striking resemblance to biogeochemical cycles on Earth. Consider the carbon cycle. On our planet, carbon moves through the atmosphere, oceans, living organisms, and rocks in a complex dance driven by biological, geological, and chemical processes. In the cosmos, carbon created in stellar fusion disperses through space via stellar winds and supernovae, eventually incorporating into nebulae, new star systems, planets, and potentially new life forms. Silicon, oxygen, iron, and other elements follow similar cosmic cycles, concentrated and dispersed through stellar processes over billions of years. Dark matter and dark energy, though still mysterious, might play roles analogous to hormones or enzymes in biological metabolism. Dark matter appears to provide gravitational scaffolding that shapes the cosmos, influencing how ordinary matter clumps together to form structures. Dark energy acts as a kind of anti-gravity, accelerating cosmic expansion and potentially determining the universe's ultimate fate. Though we cannot directly observe these dark components, their effects permeate the cosmos, just as hormones invisibly influence biological processes throughout a body. Even the second law of thermodynamics, which states that entropy in an isolated system always increases over time, bears relevance to our exploration of cosmic metabolism. Living organisms appear to defy this law by becoming more ordered, but they actually conform to it by increasing entropy in their surroundings through metabolic waste. Similarly, while cosmic structures like galaxies represent local decreases in entropy, their formation increases overall entropy through energy dissipation. Both life and cosmic organization exist not in violation of thermodynamic laws, but as their particular expressions under specific conditions. The physicist Eric Chaisson has proposed a metric called energy rate density, measuring energy flow per unit, time per unit mass, as a way to quantify complexity across different systems. By this measure, complexity has increased throughout cosmic evolution, from elementary particles to galaxies to planets to living organisms, with human brains representing one of the highest known energy rate densities. This suggests that the universe's metabolism has generated increasingly complex dissipative structures over time, potentially pointing toward metabolism as a universal process rather than merely a biological one. Metabolism encompasses not just energy transformation, but also material cycling and information processing. Living cells use DNA to store and transmit information about their structure and function. Might the universe store information in its physical laws and constants, in quantum fields, or in the distribution of matter and energy throughout space-time? Some theoretical physicists suggest that information may be as fundamental to reality as matter and energy, encoded in the quantum relationships between particles and preserved even in black holes, albeit in scrambled form. If we consider metabolism broadly as the processes by which a system acquires, transforms, and utilizes energy and information to maintain its organization, then the universe appears deeply metabolic. The birth of stars, their transformation of elements, the formation of planets, the emergence of life, and even the development of consciousness could represent stages in an ongoing cosmic metabolic process, each building upon the accomplishments of previous stages. Viewing the universe through this metabolic lens shifts our perspective on cosmic processes. The expansion of the universe from the Big Bang no longer appears as merely a physical event, but as part of a vast energetic unfolding. The mysterious dark energy accelerating this expansion might serve some function in cosmic metabolism that we have yet to comprehend, much as early biologists observed respiration in animals long before understanding the molecular mechanisms of oxygen utilization. The formation of galaxies through gravitational attraction becomes not just a physical inevitability, but an organizational principle that enables the development of stellar nurseries where new stars can form. These stars, in turn, create the conditions for planets, some of which may harbor life. And life itself, rather than appearing as an improbable accident, emerges as a natural expression of the universe's inherent tendency toward increasing complexity and organization through energy flow. This perspective invites us to reconsider our place in the cosmic order. If the universe itself engages in metabolism-like processes, then biological metabolism represents not a departure from cosmic principles, but their continuation and elaboration at different scales. Our body's complex biochemical pathways, the energy flowing through our cells, and even the thoughts forming in our minds as we contemplate these ideas, might all be expressions of the same fundamental processes that govern stars and galaxies. As we prepare to drift toward our next cosmic contemplation, consider that each breath you take connects you to this universal metabolism. The oxygen entering your lungs was released by plants through photosynthesis. Those plants captured energy from our sun, a third-generation star containing elements forged in previous stellar generations. The carbon dioxide you exhale will be absorbed by plants, continuing a cycle that has persisted for billions of years on Earth and, in various forms, throughout the cosmos for billions of years before Earth existed. Whether or not we ultimately decide that the universe qualifies as living in a technical sense, exploring its metabolism-like processes deepens our appreciation for the interconnected flows of energy, matter, and information that sustain both cosmic structures and biological life. In our next chapter, we will examine how the universe grows and evolves over time, another crucial characteristic of living systems. Growth and development stand among the most recognizable characteristics of living systems. A tiny acorn transforms into a mighty oak tree. A single fertilized cell develops into a complex organism of trillions of cells. Living things not only maintain their structure through metabolism, but they also grow, change, and evolve over time. If the universe behaves in ways analogous to a living organism, we should expect to observe patterns of growth, development, and evolution on a cosmic scale. And indeed, when we examine the history and structure of our universe, we find precisely such patterns unfolding across billions of years. Our universe has a birth story. Approximately 13.8 billion years ago, according to our best scientific understanding, all matter, energy, space, and time emerge from an incredibly hot, dense state in what we now call the Big Bang. This was not an explosion in space, but an expansion of space itself, beginning from a singularity where the laws of physics as we understand them break down. in the earliest moments of cosmic existence. Perhaps analogous to embryonic development, the universe underwent a period of inflation, expanding faster than the speed of light and growing from subatomic size to cosmic scale in the tiniest fraction of a second. As the infant universe expanded and cooled, fundamental forces separated from their unified state. Gravity, the electromagnetic force, and the strong and weak nuclear forces emerged as distinct interactions. Elementary particles formed, then atomic nuclei, and eventually, after about 380,000 years, the universe cooled enough for electrons to combine with nuclei, forming the first atoms, primarily hydrogen and helium. This period, known as recombination, marks when the universe became transparent to light, releasing the cosmic microwave background radiation that our telescopes can still detect today, like a cosmic birth certificate recording the universe's earliest observable moments. For millions of years after recombination, the universe existed in what cosmologists call the cosmic dark ages. Space continued expanding, and matter distributed unevenly due to quantum fluctuations from the earliest moments after the Big Bang. These slight density variations became gravitational seeds, attracting additional matter to create regions of greater and lesser density. Much like how a developing embryo begins with undifferentiated cells that gradually form specialized structures, the initially homogeneous universe began developing distinct regions with varying concentrations of matter. Between about 150 million and 1 billion years after the Big Bang, the first stars ignited, ending the cosmic dark ages in a period astronomers call the cosmic dawn. These population 3 stars, as they are designated, contained only the primordial elements hydrogen and helium. Massive and short-lived compared to later stellar generations, they burned hot and died young, some exploding as supernovae and scattering the first heavy elements throughout their surroundings. We might view this era as cosmic childhood, where the universe began developing more complex structures and creating new elements that would enable further complexity. With these heavy elements now available, second-generation stars formed with more diverse composition. Around them, planets could condense from the heavier elements previous stars had created. Galaxies grew more structured, developing spiral arms, central bulges, and diverse stellar populations. The universe continued its growth, not merely in size through expansion, but in complexity and organization, just as living organisms develop increasingly complex and specialized structures as they mature. Galaxy formation and evolution show remarkable parallels to biological growth processes. Galaxies begin as relatively formless collections of gas, gradually developing structure through gravitational interactions, star formation, and mergers with other galaxies. Young galaxies often appear irregular or amorphous, like embryonic tissues before differentiation. As they mature, many develop the characteristic spiral structure we associate with galaxies like our Milky Way, with elegant arms spiraling from a central core. Galaxies interact and even merge, their mutual gravitational attraction drawing them together in cosmic dances that unfold over billions of years. When galaxies collide, they rarely experience destructive collisions between individual stars due to the vast distances separating them. Instead, their gas clouds compress, triggering bursts of new star formation. Their central black holes may eventually coalesce, releasing enormous energy through gravitational waves. Through these interactions, galaxies grow and change, evolving from their initial states into the diverse forms we observe today. Our own Milky Way galaxy has experienced this growth and development throughout its approximately 13 billion year history. It likely began as a collection of smaller protogalaxies that merged together. It has absorbed smaller dwarf galaxies, their stars now indistinguishable from those formed within the Milky Way itself. It continues growing today, currently drawing in the Sagittarius dwarf elliptical galaxy, and on course for a massive collision with the Andromeda galaxy in approximately 4.5 billion years. Like a living organism incorporating nutrients from its environment, our galaxy builds its structure by assimilating matter from its surroundings. Stars themselves undergo life cycles analogous to biological ones. They form from collapsing clouds of gas and dust, pass through distinctive developmental stages, and eventually die, returning their material to the interstellar medium. A star like our Sun spends its primordial phase as a protostar, accreting matter from its surrounding nebula. It enters its main sequence when nuclear fusion ignites in its core, where it will remain stable for billions of years. In its later life, it will expand into a red giant, eventually shedding its outer layers as a planetary nebula and ending its life as a cooling white dwarf. More massive stars follow different evolutionary paths, potentially exploding as supernovae or even collapsing into black holes. This diversity of stellar life cycles parallels the varied life histories of different species, each following developmental patterns suited to their particular characteristics. The stellar population of the universe has evolved over cosmic history, with early generations containing only light elements, and later generations incorporating increasing amounts of heavier elements produced by their predecessors. Planets, too, display growth and developmental patterns. They begin as disks of dust and gas around young stars, with particles gradually clumping together to form planetesimals, then protoplanets, and finally fully fledged planets. Once formed, planets continue to evolve through geological processes like plate tectonics, volcanic activity, erosion, and impacts from space. Some develop atmospheres, magnetic fields, and complex surface chemistry. A few, like Earth, eventually nurture biological life, adding another layer of evolutionary complexity to their development. Earth itself has transformed dramatically throughout its 4.5 billion year history. From a molten ball of rock to a world of continents and oceans, from an atmosphere devoid of oxygen to one rich in this reactive gas, our planet has undergone developmental changes as profound as any seen in living systems. The biosphere and geosphere have evolved together, each influencing the other through feedback loops operating across various timescales. The oxygen we breathe resulted from photosynthetic organisms that transformed Earth's atmosphere, while geological processes like weathering and plate tectonics help regulate carbon dioxide levels, maintaining temperatures suitable for life. The evolution of life on Earth represents yet another layer of growth and development within the cosmic hierarchy. From simple prokaryotic cells to complex multicellular organisms, from sea-dwelling creatures to land plants and animals, from instinct-driven behavior to conscious awareness, life has continually developed new forms and capabilities. Through natural selection operating on genetic variations, living systems have generated astonishing diversity and increasingly complex adaptations. Evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins described this process as climbing Mount Improbable, where complex adaptations develop gradually through incremental steps, each building upon previous developments. If we zoom out to view cosmic evolution as a unified process, we see a consistent pattern of increasing complexity. Physicist Eric Chaisson has traced this development by measuring what he calls energy rate density, the amount of energy flowing through a system per unit time per unit mass. By this measure, complexity has increased from elementary particles to atoms, to stars to planets, and continues increasing through living systems, with the human brain representing one of the most complex known structures in the universe. This trajectory suggests not random change, but directional development toward greater organizational complexity. The universe's expansion itself represents a form of growth unlike any we observe in terrestrial organisms. While living things generally grow to a predetermined size, based on their genetic blueprint, and then stop, the universe continues expanding at an accelerating rate. Dark energy, a mysterious force permeating all of space, drives this accelerating expansion, potentially leading to a future where galaxies become increasingly isolated as space stretches between them. This expansion might seem contrary to biological growth patterns, yet it could represent a developmental phase in cosmic evolution whose purpose we do not yet comprehend. Cosmic history displays not just growth, but also what we might call learning, another characteristic of living systems. the universe appears to have become increasingly efficient at developing complexity over time. The first stars took hundreds of millions of years to form after the Big Bang, while new stars now develop much more quickly in the enriched interstellar medium. The first simple cells on Earth required billions of years to evolve into complex multicellular organisms, yet subsequent evolutionary innovations have often occurred more rapidly. This increasing tempo of innovation parallels how living organisms can develop new adaptations more efficiently through evolutionary mechanisms like gene duplication and regulatory network modification. Some cosmologists describe the universe's development in terms reminiscent of biological phases. As stars form, live their lives, and die, they create elements necessary for planets and eventually life. This has led some to suggest that the universe may be passing through a biological phase, where conditions favor the development of life and intelligence. This phase might be followed by a post-biological phase, dominated by intelligence that has transitioned beyond biological substrates. Such phase development resembles how organisms pass through distinct developmental stages, each with its characteristic features and functions. The universe also demonstrates what biologists call evolutionary convergence, where similar structures evolve independently in different lineages due to similar selective pressures. Eyes have evolved dozens of times independently on Earth because vision provides such adaptive advantages. Similarly, spiral galaxy structures have emerged repeatedly throughout the cosmos because this configuration efficiently balances rotational dynamics and gravitational forces. Planetary systems with inner rocky worlds and outer gas giants appear common for similar physical reasons. This convergence on certain patterns suggests that cosmic evolution, like biological evolution, follows pathways shaped by environmental constraints and optimization principles. Self-organization appears throughout cosmic evolution, just as it does in living systems. Snowflakes form their intricate patterns without external guidance, following principles of crystal formation under specific conditions. Similarly, spiral galaxies, planetary rings, and countless other cosmic structures organize themselves according to physical principles without requiring any external designer. The universe repeatedly demonstrates the capacity to generate order spontaneously under appropriate conditions, a hallmark of living systems. The concept of adaptation, central to biological evolution, finds cosmic parallels as well. Stars adapt to changing conditions throughout their life cycles, adjusting their size, temperature, and fusion processes as their composition changes. Galaxies adapt to interactions with their neighbors, developing tidal tails, warped disks, or enhanced star formation in response to gravitational influences. While these adaptations do not involve genetic mechanisms like those in biological evolution, they nonetheless represent systems modifying their structure and behavior in response to environmental conditions. Information plays a crucial role in both biological and cosmic evolution. DNA stores information about past successful adaptations, allowing organisms to develop structures suited to their environments without having to rediscover solutions in each generation. The universe stores information in its structure, with each new generation of stars and galaxies incorporating patterns established by their predecessors. The laws of physics themselves represent information that guides how matter and energy organize themselves throughout cosmic history. This preservation and transmission of information across time represents another parallel between cosmic and biological processes. Perhaps most profoundly, the universe has evolved the capacity to reflect upon itself through conscious beings. After billions of years of cosmic evolution, the universe has produced entities capable of studying its history, understanding its processes, and contemplating its nature. As the astronomer Carl Sagan poetically observed, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." This emergent self-awareness, where the universe generates the means to contemplate its own existence, parallels how living organisms develop increasingly sophisticated awareness of their environments and themselves through evolutionary processes. As we reflect on growth and evolution at the cosmic scale, we find patterns remarkably similar to those we observe in living systems. From simple beginnings emerges increasing complexity and organization. Energy flows drive the development of new structures. Information accumulates and guides future development. Systems adapt to changing conditions. And perhaps most intriguingly, the capacity for awareness evolves from initially unconscious processes. Whether these parallels justify considering the universe literally alive remains open to debate, but they certainly invite us to view cosmic processes through a biological lens, revealing connections between processes unfolding at vastly different scales. As we continue our cosmic contemplation, we will next explore whether the universe might possess mechanisms analogous to reproduction, another defining characteristic of living systems. Of all the characteristics that define life as we know it, reproduction may be the most challenging to apply to the universe as a whole. Living organisms perpetuate themselves through time by creating offspring, passing on their genetic information to future generations. This capacity for self-replication distinguishes life from non-living systems and enables the evolutionary processes that have generated Earth's remarkable biodiversity. But could a universe reproduce? Could cosmic processes include mechanisms analogous to biological reproduction? These questions lead us into some of the most speculative territory in theoretical physics and cosmology. Yet they arise naturally from our exploration of the living universe concept. Biological reproduction takes many forms, from the simple division of bacterial cells to the complex mating rituals of higher animals. Despite this diversity, all reproductive processes share fundamental elements. They transmit information from one generation to the next. They create new individuals with characteristics similar to their predecessors. And they enable adaptation through variations that arise during the reproductive process. These elements provide a framework for considering whether cosmic processes might qualify as reproductive in some meaningful sense. Let us begin with the most speculative but directly analogous possibility, the creation of new universes. Several theoretical frameworks in modern cosmology suggest mechanisms through which this might occur. One of the most developed is the theory of cosmic inflation, proposed by physicist Alan Guth in the early 1980s, and elaborated by many others since then. According to inflationary theory, the early universe underwent a period of extraordinarily rapid expansion, driven by a high-energy field. While this inflation eventually slowed in our observable universe, it might continue indefinitely in other regions, creating what cosmologists call an eternal inflation scenario. In eternal inflation, the quantum properties of the inflation field can cause different regions of space-time to stop inflating at different times. Each region where inflation ceases becomes a separate bubble universe with its own Big Bang, potentially with different physical constants and even different physical laws. The overall inflationary space continues expanding and generating new bubble universes forever, creating a vast multiverse of distinct cosmic domains. Might this process represent a form of cosmic reproduction? There are intriguing parallels. Just as biological reproduction creates new individuals with similarities to their parents, eternal inflation would generate new universe bubbles with characteristics influenced by the parent inflationary space. Just as genetic variations during reproduction create diversity among offspring, quantum fluctuations during the formation of bubble universes would create variations in their physical properties. And just as natural selection favors organisms better adapted to their environments, different physical parameters might favor the development of different kinds of complexity in various bubble universes. Another cosmological model with reproductive implications comes from the theory of black hole cosmology, developed by physicists Lee Smolin, Nikodem Poplawski, and others. This theory proposes that the formation of a black hole in our universe might give birth to a new universe inside the black hole, invisible to us, but existing as its own expanding space-time. The physical characteristics of these daughter universes would be related to, but not identical to, the parent universe that produced the black hole. Smolin took this concept further with his theory of cosmological natural selection. suggesting that universes producing more black holes would generate more offspring universes. This would create a form of cosmic evolution, favoring physical parameters that maximize black hole production. Intriguingly, such parameters would also favor the development of complex structures, including stars, galaxies, and potentially life. Under this model, our universe's apparent fitness for complexity might result from countless generations of cosmic reproduction and selection, rather than from mere chance or divine design. While these scenarios remain highly speculative and beyond our current observational capabilities, they illustrate how theoretical physics has arrived at concepts of cosmic reproduction through purely scientific reasoning. But even if we cannot yet determine whether our universe literally reproduces through these mechanisms, we can identify reproductive-like processes occurring within our cosmos. Stars, those great cosmic furnaces that power much of the universe's creativity, display patterns resembling reproduction. While individual stars do not directly create new stars, they enrich the interstellar medium with heavy elements when they die, particularly through supernova explosions. These enriched gas clouds then collapse to form new generations of stars, their composition and characteristics influenced by previous stellar generations. This cycle, where one generation of stars creates the conditions for the next, parallels how living organisms shape environments for their offspring. Astronomers even use familial language, speaking of population 1, 2, and 3 stars, to describe different stellar generations. Galaxies exhibit similar generational patterns. When galaxies collide, the gravitational interactions and compression of gas clouds often trigger the formation of new stars and can lead to the emergence of new galactic structures. The antennae galaxies, for instance, are currently colliding and will eventually merge to form a new elliptical galaxy different from either of its predecessors. Throughout cosmic history, small protogalaxies have merged to form larger galaxies, and these in turn combine to create even larger structures in an ongoing process of cosmic growth and restructuring. On smaller scales, self-replicating patterns appear throughout the universe. Crystal formation represents one example, where a particular molecular arrangement provides a template that guides surrounding molecules into the same configuration, allowing the pattern to grow and spread. While not typically considered alive in the biological sense, crystals nonetheless exhibit this fundamental aspect of reproduction: the capacity to propagate specific patterns through space and time. Chemical systems can display even more complex self-replication. Autocatalytic sets, where a collection of chemicals catalyze each other's production in a closed loop, can grow and reproduce their pattern as long as appropriate resources remain available. Some origin of life theories suggest that such autocatalytic chemistry preceded biological reproduction, eventually giving rise to the RNA and DNA-based systems that characterize life today. The universe appears to harbor an inherent tendency towards self-replication at multiple levels of organization. Information plays a crucial role in both biological reproduction and these cosmic analogs. DNA encodes the information needed to construct an organism, while environments encode information that shapes which genetic variations succeed through natural selection. Similarly, the laws of physics encode information that guides how matter and energy organize themselves throughout the cosmos. The physical constants that determine how forces interact appear finely tuned to allow the complexity we observe, suggesting they may themselves result from some selective process operating at the multiversal scale. Might we even consider the emergence of life itself as a form of cosmic reproduction? Life transforms inorganic matter into living systems capable of growth and further reproduction. Through evolutionary processes, life has diversified to occupy countless ecological niches, each representing a different solution to the challenge of perpetuating pattern and process through time. Perhaps biological reproduction represents not a phenomenon separate from cosmic processes, but rather one particular expression of the universe's inherent creativity and self-propagating tendency. The development of intelligence might represent yet another level of this cosmic reproductive capacity. Through technology, intelligent beings can potentially spread life beyond its planet of origin, seeding other worlds and creating new biospheres. Some futurists speculate about self-replicating probes that could spread throughout a galaxy, establishing footholds for life in numerous star systems. Others envision more radical possibilities, where advanced civilizations might create simulated universes or even actual new cosmic domains through technologies we can barely imagine. Through such processes, the universe might reproduce not only its physical structure, but also its capacity for awareness and understanding. Panspermia theories suggest that life might naturally spread between worlds through meteoroids and asteroids, with hardy microorganisms surviving the journey through space to colonize new planets. If confirmed, this would represent another mechanism by which the living aspects of our universe propagate themselves across cosmic distances. The universe might function as a vast evolutionary laboratory, generating life in favorable locations that then spreads to new environments, adapting and diversifying along the way. The concept of information again proves crucial here. Biological reproduction transmits genetic information, while cultural transmission among intelligent beings communicates ideas, technologies, and values. Both processes propagate patterns through time, allowing adaptations and innovations to accumulate. The universe itself transmits information through its evolving structure, with each new generation of stars and galaxies incorporating elements from previous cosmic epochs. This continuity of information across scales and systems suggests a fundamental unity to reproductive processes throughout the cosmos. While we cannot yet determine whether our universe literally reproduces by generating new universes, we can recognize that reproduction-like processes operate at multiple levels within our cosmos, from self-replicating chemical patterns to generational sequences of stars and galaxies, to the emergence and diversification of life itself. The universe consistently demonstrates the capacity to propagate pattern and process through space and time. This persistent recreative tendency suggests that reproduction, typically considered a defining characteristic of biological life, may in fact represent a broader cosmic principle manifesting through various systems at different scales. The philosopher Alfred North Whitehead developed a philosophical system known as process philosophy, which views reality as fundamentally composed of events or processes rather than static substances. Within this framework, reproduction represents not merely a characteristic of biological entities, but a general tendency of the universe toward what Whitehead called creative advance, the perpetuation and elaboration of pattern through novel events. The reproductive processes we observe at various cosmic scales might represent different expressions of this more fundamental creative advance inherent to reality itself. Physicist David Bohm proposed a similar concept with his notion of the implicate and explicate orders. The explicate order comprises the physical universe we observe directly, while the implicate order represents a deeper reality from which the explicate continually unfolds. In this view, what appears as reproduction might represent the continuous unfolding of pattern from the implicate to the explicate order, with variations arising through the particulars of each unfolding event. The universe reproduces not just physically, but through this ongoing manifestation of deeper patterns into diverse physical expressions. These philosophical perspectives remind us that our understanding of reproduction remains shaped by our terrestrial experience with biological systems. As we contemplate cosmic processes, we may need to expand our conception of what constitutes reproduction beyond the familiar mechanisms of genetic transmission and organismal replication. Perhaps reproduction, in its most essential form, involves the perpetuation of pattern and information through time, regardless of the specific mechanisms through which this occurs. The universe maintains continuity amid constant change, preserving certain fundamental patterns while continuously generating novel variations. Stars die, but their elements recombine into new stars and planets. Species go extinct, but their evolutionary innovations persist in descendant lineages. Civilizations collapse, but their discoveries and cultural achievements influence subsequent societies. This persistence of pattern through transformation characterizes both biological reproduction and cosmic processes more generally. Fractals provide a compelling illustration of how simple reproductive rules can generate complex patterns across multiple scales. A fractal pattern repeats its basic structure at different magnifications, creating self-similarity from the smallest to the largest scales. The Mandelbrot set, for instance, contains infinite complexity emerging from a relatively simple mathematical formula iterated repeatedly. Remarkably, many natural systems display fractal-like properties, from the branching patterns of trees and river networks to the distribution of galaxies throughout the cosmic web. These recurring patterns across different scales suggest a fundamental self-similarity in how the universe organizes itself, potentially indicating a deep connection between reproductive processes at biological and cosmic levels. We might even consider how consciousness and cultural transmission represent forms of cosmic reproduction. Through language, art, science, and technology, conscious beings propagate their insights and innovations across generations. Ideas evolve through processes analogous to biological evolution, with variations arising through creative recombination and selection occurring through cultural adoption or rejection. Might consciousness itself represent the universe's strategy for reproducing its patterns with greater fidelity and creative variation than purely physical mechanisms allow? As we drift deeper into our cosmic contemplation, we recognize that reproduction, like other characteristics of life, exists on a spectrum rather than as a binary category. Some systems, like living organisms, exhibit clear reproductive capabilities with high-fidelity transmission of complex patterns. Others, like stars and galaxies, display reproductive-like processes that perpetuate certain patterns while allowing for greater variation. And at the largest scale, the universe itself may participate in reproduction through mechanisms still beyond our observational reach, but suggested by our theoretical understanding of cosmic processes. Whether or not our universe literally reproduces by generating new universes, it clearly demonstrates a persistent tendency toward the perpetuation and elaboration of pattern across multiple scales. From quantum fields to conscious minds, the cosmos continually recreates itself in both familiar and novel forms. This creative continuity suggests that reproduction, far from being solely a biological phenomenon, may represent one expression of a fundamental cosmic tendency towards self-perpetuation and increasing complexity. In our next chapter, we will explore another characteristic widely associated with living systems: the capacity to respond to stimuli. How might the universe as a whole demonstrate responsiveness and adaptation to changing conditions? This question will lead us further into our exploration of the living cosmos and its implications for our understanding of existence. Living systems distinguish themselves through their remarkable ability to respond to environmental changes. A sunflower turns to follow the arc of the sun across the sky. A gazelle flees at the scent of a predator. A human immune system mobilizes against invading pathogens. This responsiveness to stimuli represents a fundamental characteristic of life, allowing organisms to maintain their internal organization amid changing external conditions. If the universe exhibits lifelike properties, we might expect to observe analogous responsive behaviors at the cosmic scale. But how could a universe respond to stimuli? And what might constitute a stimulus for such a vast system? To explore these questions, we must first consider the nature of responsiveness itself. At its core, response to stimuli involves detecting changes in the environment and adjusting internal processes accordingly. This capacity relies on information transfer and processing, whether through the direct chemical sensing of a bacterium or the complex neural systems of advanced animals. All living things possess mechanisms to gather, interpret, and act upon information about their surroundings. The most basic physical systems already demonstrate simple forms of responsiveness. When you drop a stone into a pond, the water responds with ripples propagating outward from the point of impact. When sunlight strikes a solar panel, Electrons flow in response, generating electricity. Even elementary particles respond to fundamental forces, altering their motion or state according to physical laws. These examples represent purely mechanistic responses, yet they illustrate the universe's inherent responsiveness at the most fundamental levels. As we examine more complex systems, we find increasingly sophisticated forms of response. Crystal formation adjusts to local temperature and pressure conditions. Chemical oscillators like the Belousov-Jabotinsky reaction create shifting patterns as they respond to changing concentrations of reactants. Weather systems develop complex structures as they respond to temperature gradients, air pressure differences, and the Coriolis effect from Earth's rotation. Each level of organization brings new forms of responsiveness emerging from the collective behavior of simpler components. Living organisms have evolved particularly elaborate mechanisms for detecting and responding to their environments. Cells use receptor proteins to sense specific molecules, triggering cascades of internal signals that alter their metabolism, gene expression, or movement. Multicellular organisms coordinate these cellular responses through hormonal and neural systems, enabling more complex adaptive behaviors. Human consciousness represents perhaps the most sophisticated response system known, capable of anticipating future conditions, remembering past experiences, and integrating countless variables into coherent action plans. Can we identify analogous response mechanisms operating at the cosmic scale? Let us consider several intriguing possibilities. Gravity provides one of the most fundamental response mechanisms in the universe. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, matter and energy curve spacetime, and this curvature in turn influences how matter and energy move. When a massive object like a star forms, spacetime curves around it, causing nearby objects to orbit rather than travel in straight lines. This continuous, reciprocal interaction between matter and spacetime represents a form of cosmic responsiveness built into the very fabric of reality. Stars themselves demonstrate remarkable responsiveness to changing conditions. As a star fuses hydrogen into helium in its core, the composition and pressure change, triggering adjustments throughout the stellar structure. The star may expand, contract, or alter its fusion processes to maintain equilibrium. When a substantial perturbation occurs, such as the depletion of hydrogen in the core, the star responds dramatically, perhaps expanding into a red giant or collapsing toward a supernova. These responses follow physical laws rather than conscious decisions, yet they represent complex adaptive behaviors preserving the star's structure against internal and external changes. Galaxies show similar adaptive responses at even larger scales. When galaxies interact gravitationally, they respond with altered rotation patterns, tidal distortions, and often increased star formation in compressed gas regions. The central black holes found in most galaxies respond to inflowing matter by generating jets of energy and particles that regulate further accretion, creating feedback loops that help maintain galactic stability. These processes echo the homeostatic mechanisms of living organisms, where internal feedback systems maintain conditions within viable ranges. Even the cosmic expansion itself demonstrates a form of responsiveness. According to current cosmological models, the early universe underwent inflation, a period of extraordinarily rapid expansion. This inflation eventually gave way to a slower expansion rate, which has more recently begun accelerating again due to dark energy. These changing expansion rates respond to the evolving composition of the cosmos, with different forms of energy becoming dominant at different epochs. The universe's expansion history reflects an ongoing adaptation to its changing energy content. Dark energy, that mysterious force accelerating cosmic expansion, presents one of the most intriguing possible examples of cosmic responsiveness. Some theoretical models propose that dark energy might not be constant, but could vary in response to the universe's evolving structure. These variable dark energy models, sometimes called quintessence theories, suggest that the expansion rate might adjust dynamically to conditions within the cosmos, perhaps maintaining certain critical parameters within ranges conducive to complexity. While still speculative, such theories hint at potential cosmic-scale regulatory mechanisms. Dark matter, though equally mysterious, clearly responds to and shapes the evolution of cosmic structure. Dark matter appears to form a scaffolding around which ordinary matter congregates, facilitating the formation of galaxies and the cosmic web. The distribution of dark matter responds to gravitational interactions, not only with itself, but also with the visible matter whose evolution it guides. This reciprocal relationship between dark and ordinary matter shapes the large-scale structure of the universe in ways potentially analogous to how regulatory systems shape the development of living organisms. Quantum mechanics introduces another dimension of cosmic responsiveness. At the quantum level, particles exist not in definite states, but as probability waves that collapse into specific configurations only when measured or otherwise interacting with their environment. This quantum behavior, often characterized as measurement response, suggests that reality at its most fundamental level involves an ongoing interaction between systems and their contexts. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, such as relational quantum mechanics, propose that quantum states themselves are not absolute, but exist only in relation to other systems, making relatedness and responsiveness intrinsic to physical reality. The anthropic principle offers yet another perspective on cosmic responsiveness. This principle notes that the physical constants and laws we observe must be compatible with the existence of conscious observers like ourselves. Some versions of the anthropic principle are merely tautological, noting that we necessarily find ourselves in a universe capable of producing us. But others, particularly in multiverse theories, suggest a kind of cosmic natural selection, where universes with physical parameters conducive to complexity and life generate more daughter universes through black hole formation or other mechanisms. Under such models, our universe's apparent fine-tuning for life might reflect a form of cosmic adaptation across multiple generations of universe reproduction. Complex systems theory provides valuable insights into how responsiveness emerges across different scales. In complex adaptive systems, relatively simple components follow local rules that, through their collective behavior, generate sophisticated responses to environmental changes. Ant colonies adjust their foraging patterns based on food availability without any central direction. Markets respond to supply and demand fluctuations through the aggregated decisions of individual participants. The internet routes data around damaged sections without centralized control. These examples illustrate how responsive behavior can emerge from distributed systems through simple interaction rules, suggesting how the universe might demonstrate lifelike responsiveness without requiring cosmic consciousness or centralized control. The emergence of life itself represents a profound example of cosmic responsiveness. Under suitable conditions of temperature, pressure, chemical availability, and energy flow, matter spontaneously organizes into self-sustaining, self-replicating systems we recognize as living. This emergent organization does not violate physical laws, but rather expresses the universe's inherent capacity to generate complexity under appropriate conditions. Life appears not as something imposed upon an inert universe from outside, but as a natural response of the cosmic system to particular local environments. Intelligence and consciousness may represent further expressions of this cosmic responsiveness. Through evolutionary processes, the universe has generated beings capable of modeling their environments, anticipating future states, and deliberately altering their surroundings. Human technology, science, art, and culture extend this responsive capacity, allowing us to adapt to environmental challenges not just through genetic evolution, but through cultural and technological innovation. Is consciousness itself perhaps the universe's strategy for developing more sophisticated forms of responsiveness? Some philosophers and scientists have proposed more radical interpretations of cosmic responsiveness. The Gaia hypothesis, developed by James Lovelock and Lynn Margulis, suggests that Earth's biosphere functions as an integrated system, maintaining conditions suitable for life through numerous feedback mechanisms. Some extend this concept to a cosmic scale, with the notion of a living universe maintaining conditions suitable for complexity through similar regulatory processes. While highly speculative, such perspectives invite us to consider whether the cosmos might possess emergent regulatory systems operating across vast timescales. The challenge in evaluating these possibilities lies partly in our limited temporal perspective. Human lives unfold over decades, civilization over millennia, yet cosmic processes operate over billions or even trillions of years. A responsive behavior that takes millions of years to manifest would appear static to human observers, just as the slow growth of mountains would appear motionless to a mayfly living for a single day. Our inability to perceive extremely slow changes does not mean they do not occur. Similarly, our spatial perspective remains limited despite remarkable advances in observational astronomy. We can observe only a fraction of the universe from our single vantage point, and much of what exists remains hidden by distance, cosmic expansion, or the fundamental limitations of light speed. Just as a single cell in your body cannot perceive your entire organism or its complex responses to environmental changes, our observations from Earth may detect only fragments of larger cosmic patterns. Information plays a crucial role in all responsive systems. Living organisms process environmental information through sensory and regulatory mechanisms. Social insects share information through pheromones and behavioral cues. Human societies transmit information through language, writing, and digital networks. Information in these contexts does not exist as an abstract quantity, but as meaningful differences that trigger specific responses. If the universe functions as a responsive system, it must likewise process information in some form, whether through the propagation of physical influences, the encoding of patterns in structure, or other mechanisms we have yet to understand. Feedback loops characterize all complex responsive systems. Negative feedback stabilizes systems by counteracting deviations from equilibrium states, while positive feedback amplifies initial changes, driving systems toward new configurations. Both types of feedback appear throughout cosmic processes. Star formation represents positive feedback, as gravitational collapse increases density, further accelerating collapse until nuclear fusion ignites. The relationship between cosmic expansion and gravity represents negative feedback, with expansion counteracting gravity's tendency to pull matter together. These cosmic feedback loops, operating across vast scales of space and time, may constitute essential aspects of universal responsiveness. Adaptation, the capacity to adjust to changing conditions in ways that maintain viability, defines living systems. Species adapt through natural selection, individuals through learning and physiological adjustments, and ecosystems through shifting species relationships. The universe demonstrates adaptation through its evolving structure, with new forms of organization emerging as conditions change. The formation of heavier elements in stellar fusion, the development of planetary systems with diverse chemistries, and the emergence of increasingly complex forms of life all represent adaptive responses to changing cosmic conditions. Through these processes, the universe appears to explore the possibilities inherent in its physical laws, adapting its structure to express increasingly complex forms. The most profound form of cosmic adaptation may be the emergence of conscious beings capable of contemplating the universe itself. Through human science, art, philosophy, and spiritual inquiry, the cosmos has generated entities that seek to understand their own origins and nature. This self-reflective capacity suggests a kind of cosmic feedback loop, where the universe produces observers who in turn influence cosmic evolution through their understanding and technology. Might consciousness represent the universe's adaptation for accelerating its own evolutionary development? As we continue our gentle drift through cosmic contemplation, we recognize that responsiveness exists not as a binary quality, but as a spectrum. Simple physical systems demonstrate basic forms of response governed by fundamental forces. Complex adaptive systems show more sophisticated responsiveness emerging from the collective behavior of their components. Living organisms exhibit particularly elaborate response mechanisms shaped by evolutionary processes, and consciousness represents perhaps the most developed form of responsiveness we know, capable of modeling the world internally and responding to potential future states. The universe appears to generate responsiveness at each level of its organization, from the quantum behavior of elementary particles to the regulatory processes of living systems to the conscious awareness of intelligent beings. Rather than seeing these as separate phenomena, we might view them as expressions of the same fundamental cosmic tendency toward increasing responsiveness, manifesting through increasingly complex systems. Under this perspective, the responsiveness of living organisms represents not a departure from cosmic processes, but their continuation and elaboration through particularly sophisticated structures. Whether or not we ultimately decide that the universe qualifies as living in a technical sense, examining its responsive behaviors enriches our understanding of both cosmic processes and the nature of life itself. By recognizing patterns of responsiveness across different scales, we perceive connections between phenomena typically studied by separate scientific disciplines. These connections remind us that we exist not as observers separate from cosmic processes, but as expressions of those processes, our own responsiveness, an extension of the universe's intrinsic capacity for adaptation and evolution. In our next chapter, we will explore perhaps the most provocative question in our cosmic contemplation: whether the universe might possess some form of consciousness, awareness, or mind-like qualities. This exploration will lead us into the fascinating intersection of cosmology, neuroscience, and philosophy of mind as we consider what cosmic consciousness might mean and what evidence might support or challenge such a concept. We have journeyed through cosmic metabolism, growth, reproduction, and responsiveness, exploring how the universe might express life-like qualities at the grandest scales. Now we approach perhaps the most profound question in our contemplation. Could the universe itself possess some form of consciousness or awareness? This inquiry leads us to the frontiers of scientific understanding and into territory where science, philosophy, and spiritual traditions have long converged and diverged in their approaches. Consciousness represents one of the great mysteries confronting human knowledge. We experience it directly, the very ground of our subjective existence, yet struggle to explain how it arises, or even to define it precisely. Neuroscience has made remarkable progress in identifying neural correlates of consciousness, patterns of brain activity associated with conscious experience. Yet, an explanatory gap remains between observable brain processes and the subjective experience of awareness, what philosopher David Chalmers famously called the hard problem of consciousness. Before considering cosmic consciousness, let us reflect on what we know about consciousness in living organisms. Human consciousness includes several key aspects: subjective experience, or qualia, the felt quality of perceptions, emotions, and thoughts; self-awareness, the recognition of oneself as distinct from the environment; integration of information across different sensory modalities and cognitive domains; intentionality, the directedness of thoughts toward objects or concepts; and agency, the sense of being able to act upon one's environment based on decisions. We recognize consciousness most clearly in humans and assume its presence in other mammals based on behavioral similarities and neurological homologies. As we move to more distantly related species with different neural architectures, such as octopuses, insects, or jellyfish, the nature and extent of consciousness becomes increasingly uncertain. Plants and single-celled organisms display complex responsive behaviors without brains, raising questions about whether some form of awareness might exist without neurons. These considerations highlight that consciousness may not be a binary quality, but might exist on a spectrum of complexity and integration. When we contemplate consciousness at a cosmic scale, we enter speculative territory beyond direct observation. Yet several philosophical and scientific perspectives suggest intriguing possibilities for how consciousness might relate to the universe as a whole. Panpsychism proposes that consciousness or mind-like qualities exist as fundamental aspects of reality, present in some form at all levels from elementary particles to complex organisms. According to this view, human consciousness emerges not from entirely non-conscious components, but from the integration of simpler forms of consciousness already present in matter itself. Philosopher Thomas Nagel suggested that any complete theory of consciousness must explain how it could arise from physical processes, and panpsychism offers one approach by proposing that the mental and the physical represent two aspects of the same reality. Several prominent contemporary philosophers and scientists have developed sophisticated versions of panpsychism. Galen Strawson argues that physical entities must have intrinsic properties beyond their structural or relational qualities, and that these intrinsic properties might be experiential in nature. David Chalmers proposes that information itself might have both physical and phenomenal aspects, potentially explaining how consciousness relates to physical processes. And neuroscientist Christoph Koch has explored how integrated information theory might support a form of panpsychism, suggesting that consciousness corresponds to a system's capacity to integrate information across its components. The philosopher Alfred North Whitehead developed a comprehensive metaphysical system called process philosophy that incorporates panpsychist elements. Whitehead proposed that reality consists fundamentally of occasions of experience rather than enduring substances. These occasions, or actual entities, possess both physical and mental poles, representing how they incorporate past events and anticipate future possibilities. Under this view, all entities from electrons to ecosystems participate in experience to some degree, with consciousness as we know it representing particularly elaborate and integrated forms of the experiential aspect inherent to all reality. Eastern philosophical traditions have long proposed similar concepts. Buddhist philosophy speaks of Buddha nature as an inherent awareness pervading all phenomena. Vedantic traditions in Hinduism describe Brahman as universal consciousness underlying the apparent diversity of existence. Taoist thought perceives consciousness not as separate from nature, but as an expression of the same Tao or way that manifests through all natural processes. While differing in their specifics, these traditions converge in viewing consciousness as intrinsic to reality, rather than as an anomalous emergence in certain complex organisms. The concept of cosmic consciousness extends these perspectives to the universe as a whole. If consciousness exists as a fundamental aspect of reality, or emerges through the integration of information in complex systems, might the universe itself, as the most encompassing and intricate system known, possess some form of unified awareness? Might cosmic processes reflect not merely mechanical interactions, but aspects of an underlying cosmic mind? Several interpretations of quantum mechanics raise provocative questions relevant to cosmic consciousness. The measurement problem in quantum physics concerns how probability waves collapse into definite states when observed or measured. Some interpretations, including versions proposed by John Wheeler and Eugene Wigner, suggest that consciousness itself plays a role in this collapse, implying a fundamental relationship between mind and physical reality. Wheeler's participatory anthropic principle proposes that observers are necessary participants in bringing the universe into definite existence, suggesting a kind of cosmos-wide observer dependence. Other quantum interpretations propose different relationships between consciousness and physical reality. David Bohm's interpretation involves an implicate order underlying the explicate order we directly observe, with consciousness potentially emerging from the same implicate order that gives rise to quantum behavior. Quantum entanglement, where particles remain connected such that actions on one instantaneously affect another, regardless of distance, hints at non-local connections throughout the cosmos that some theorists have related to the unified field of awareness described in various wisdom traditions. Information provides another perspective for considering cosmic consciousness. According to integrated information theory, developed by Giulio Tononi, consciousness corresponds to a system's capacity to integrate information measured by a value called phi. Systems with high phi generate more consciousness than those with low phi. Under this theory, any sufficiently integrated system would possess some degree of consciousness, with the particular quality of consciousness determined by the system's informational structure. Might the universe as a whole, with its vast networks of causal connections, generate a high phi value indicating an integrated consciousness beyond our comprehension? Information, crucially, cannot exist without physical embodiment. It requires differences in physical states to represent meaningful patterns. Yet information also transcends any particular physical manifestation, as the same information can be encoded in various media. This dual nature of information, both physical and abstract, parallels how consciousness relates to the brain, both emerging from physical processes, yet seemingly irreducible to them. Physicist John Archibald Wheeler captured this relationship in his phrase, "it from bit," suggesting that physical reality ultimately derives from information. Network theory offers additional insights into how consciousness might operate at a cosmic scale. In the human brain, consciousness appears associated with complex networks of neurons exchanging information through electrochemical signals. The cosmic web, that vast network of galaxy filaments spanning the observable universe, displays structural similarities to neural networks, though operating at vastly different scales and through different mechanisms. Both systems exhibit small world network properties, where most nodes connect to nearby nodes, while some connections span greater distances, enabling efficient information transfer across the entire network. These structural parallels do not necessarily imply functional similarities, yet they raise intriguing questions about whether similar principles of complex network organization might generate analogous emergent properties at different scales. If consciousness emerges from the complex information processing of neural networks, might similar emergent phenomena arise from the interactions within the cosmic web? Might galaxy clusters function as processing nodes in a cosmos-spanning network whose operations occur on timescales of millions or billions of years? The evolution of consciousness through cosmic history provides another perspective for our contemplation. From the relatively simple awareness we might attribute to primitive organisms, consciousness has evolved toward increasing complexity, integration, and self-reflection. Humans possess not just awareness, but awareness of awareness, the capacity to contemplate our own conscious experience. This evolutionary trajectory raises questions about whether consciousness continues developing beyond current human capacities, and whether such development might represent a fundamental tendency of the cosmos rather than merely a local biological phenomenon. Teilhard de Chardin, a paleontologist and theologian, proposed that evolution moves toward increasing consciousness, culminating in what he called the omega point, a future state of maximum complexity and consciousness toward which the universe evolves. While his specific religious framework may not resonate with all perspectives, the concept of consciousness as a developmental trajectory of cosmic evolution appears in various forms across philosophical and scientific thought. Stuart Kauffman speaks of the universe expanding its own dimensionality through the emergence of consciousness and culture. Kevin Kelly describes technology as an extension of evolutionary processes, potentially developing toward greater integration and intelligence beyond current human capacities. Some theorists propose that technological development might lead toward a global or even cosmic consciousness. The internet already connects billions of human minds in information exchange patterns unprecedented in evolutionary history. Artificial intelligence and brain-computer interfaces may eventually enable forms of consciousness transcending individual human limitations. These developments might represent not departures from cosmic evolution, but extensions of the same tendency toward increasing complexity and integration that has characterized the universe throughout its history. This developmental perspective invites consideration of whether human consciousness might represent an intermediate rather than final stage in cosmic consciousness evolution. Just as a single neuron cannot comprehend the consciousness of the brain to which it contributes, individual human minds might participate in larger conscious systems beyond our direct perception. And just as consciousness emerged from processes not themselves conscious in the same way, future forms of consciousness might emerge from human civilization in ways we cannot yet imagine. The concept of emergence proves crucial for understanding how consciousness might operate across different scales. Strong emergence occurs when a system develops properties that cannot be predicted or fully explained by the properties of its components. Consciousness appears to be such an emergent phenomenon, arising from neural activity yet not reducible to it. If consciousness emerges from brain processes, might similar emergence occur at larger scales, with galactic or cosmic consciousness emerging from the integrated activity of astronomical systems? Scale becomes particularly relevant when considering cosmic consciousness. The universe operates across timescales from attoseconds to billions of years, spatial scales from quantum fields to the cosmic horizon, and complexity scales from elementary particles to human civilizations. A cosmic consciousness might likewise operate across multiple scales, with different aspects manifesting at different levels of organization and temporal extension. What appears as inanimate matter at one scale might participate in conscious processes at larger scales beyond our perception, just as the atoms in our brains are not themselves conscious, yet participate in our conscious experience. The question of cosmic consciousness relates intimately to the nature of time. Human consciousness unfolds within the narrow temporal window of seconds to hours, with memory and anticipation extending this window somewhat further. A cosmic consciousness might operate across vastly different timescales, perhaps experiencing a moment that encompasses what for us would be millennia or eons. Einstein's theories of relativity, which reveal time as variable rather than absolute, suggest that temporal experience itself may differ fundamentally depending on reference frame, raising profound questions about how consciousness might experience temporality at cosmic scales. Several cosmological theories propose connections between consciousness and the fundamental nature of the universe. The participatory anthropic principle suggests that the universe requires observers to actualize potential states, creating a kind of cosmic observer dependence. The final anthropic principle proposes that the universe must eventually generate consciousness that cannot be destroyed, suggesting a cosmic imperative toward consciousness preservation. And the biocentrism advocated by Robert Lanza suggests that consciousness itself creates the conditions for the universe rather than emerging from it, reversing the traditional direction of causality. These speculative approaches suggest different ways consciousness might relate to cosmic processes, from consciousness as an emergent phenomenon of sufficient complexity, to consciousness as a fundamental aspect of reality manifesting through cosmic evolution, to consciousness as the generative ground from which physical reality itself emerges. While none of these perspectives has achieved scientific consensus, they illustrate the diversity of approaches to this profound question at the intersection of physics, philosophy, and spiritual inquiry. The question of cosmic consciousness invites us to reconsider how we understand our own awareness and its relationship to the universe from which it emerged. If consciousness exists on a spectrum from the simplest responsive behaviors of elementary particles to the complex self-reflective awareness of human minds, we might view our own consciousness not as categorically separate from cosmic processes, but as their continuation and elaboration through particularly sophisticated structures. Our awareness, rather than standing apart from nature, might represent nature's awareness of itself, the universe having evolved the means to contemplate its own existence. This perspective potentially transforms our relationship with the cosmos. Rather than experiencing ourselves as isolated consciousnesses in an unconscious universe, we might recognize our awareness as one expression of the inherent capacity for consciousness woven into the fabric of reality. The mysterious sense of connection many feel when gazing at the night sky might reflect not mere poetic sentiment, but recognition of a deeper relationship between our consciousness and the cosmic processes from which it emerged. As Carl Sagan eloquently expressed, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Whether the universe possesses unified consciousness in a manner analogous to human awareness remains beyond definitive scientific determination at present. The question involves not just empirical observations, but fundamental issues about the nature of consciousness itself, the relationship between mind and matter, and the limits of human understanding. Yet contemplating cosmic consciousness enriches our appreciation for both the mystery of our own awareness and the wondrous cosmos of which we are a part. As we prepare to drift toward our final contemplation in this cosmic journey, we recognize that the question of universal consciousness invites not just intellectual analysis, but experiential exploration. Throughout human history, contemplative traditions have developed practices for experiencing states of awareness that transcend ordinary consciousness, reporting direct perception of the unity and consciousness underlying apparent diversity. While such experiences do not constitute scientific evidence in the conventional sense, they represent an avenue of inquiry complementary to the third-person methodologies of objective science, potentially offering insights into the relationship between individual and cosmic consciousness. Whether through scientific investigation, philosophical analysis, or contemplative practice, the exploration of consciousness at the cosmic scale continues to unfold, inviting us to expand our understanding of both ourselves and the universe we inhabit. In our final chapter, we will consider what the perspective of a living universe might mean for our relationship with the cosmos and our understanding of our place within it. Throughout our cosmic journey, we have explored how the universe might express characteristics traditionally associated with living systems. We have examined cosmic metabolism in the flow of energy through stars and galaxies, growth and evolution in the development of cosmic structure, reproduction in theories of universe generation, responsiveness in the adaptation of cosmic systems to changing conditions, and even the possibility of consciousness emerging at the universal scale. Now we turn to a question perhaps most relevant to our human experience. What might it mean for us if the universe does indeed function as a living system? How might this perspective transform our understanding of our place within the cosmos and our relationship with the world around us? The concept of a living universe offers a profound shift in how we understand ourselves in relation to the wider cosmos. In the conventional scientific worldview that emerged from the scientific revolution, the universe often appears as a vast mechanical system operating according to impersonal laws, with life and consciousness representing improbable accidents in an otherwise lifeless void. Humans stand as conscious observers, separate from the unconscious processes they study. This perspective has generated remarkable scientific and technological achievements, yet it has also contributed to a sense of cosmic isolation and disconnection frequently noted by philosophers, poets, and ordinary people contemplating their place in the universe. A living universe perspective suggests a different relationship, one where we exist not as accidental observers alien to cosmic processes, but as expressions of those processes. Our bodies consist of elements forged in stellar furnaces, organized through the same principles of complexity and emergence that operate throughout the cosmos. Our consciousness, rather than standing apart from nature, might represent one manifestation of awareness inherent within or emergent from the universe itself. Under this view, we are not merely in the universe, we are of the universe, participating in its creative unfolding rather than merely observing it from outside. This shift from observer to participant carries profound implications for how we understand our human identity. The conventional view often portrays humans as separate from nature, perhaps even pitted against natural forces that must be overcome or controlled. A living universe perspective suggests instead that humanity represents one expression of nature's creativity, neither separate from nor superior to other expressions. Our technological innovations, artistic creations, and scientific discoveries emerge not in opposition to natural processes, but as their continuation through the particular forms of human consciousness and culture. In practical terms, this perspective might transform how we approach environmental challenges. If we recognize Earth's biosphere not merely as a resource to be exploited, but as a living system of which we form an integral part, our decisions about resource use, pollution, biodiversity conservation, and climate change take on different significance. Just as cells within a body must maintain the health of the whole organism to ensure their own survival, humans must maintain the health of the biosphere that sustains us. A living universe perspective does not dictate specific environmental policies, but it does suggest that human well-being remains inextricably linked with the well-being of the larger systems within which we exist. This recognition of interdependence extends beyond our relationship with Earth's biosphere to encompass the wider cosmic context. The elements composing our bodies cycled through multiple generations of stars before becoming part of us. The energy powering our lives arrives from our Sun, itself one star among billions in our galaxy. The physical laws and constants that enable our existence appear finely tuned to allow complexity to emerge. And the consciousness through which we experience existence may represent one expression of awareness inherent within the cosmos itself. These connections suggest that our individual lives participate in processes far larger than ourselves, giving our existence cosmic context and significance. The living universe concept resonates with many wisdom traditions that have long recognized the intimate relationship between humans and the cosmos. Indigenous cultures worldwide often perceive the natural world as animated and aware, with humans existing in relationship with other conscious beings, including animals, plants, landscapes, and celestial bodies. Eastern philosophical traditions like Buddhism and Taoism emphasize the interdependence of all phenomena and the inseparability of human consciousness from the wider field of awareness underlying existence. Western mystical traditions speak of the anima mundi, or world soul, a living principle pervading and animating the material world. These convergences between ancient wisdom and emerging scientific perspectives do not necessarily validate all traditional beliefs, but they do suggest that the living universe concept might integrate insights from diverse knowledge systems. Science provides detailed understanding of physical mechanisms, while wisdom traditions offer insights into the experiential and ethical dimensions of human existence within the cosmic whole. Together, they might offer a more complete picture than either approach alone, potentially addressing the fragmentation of knowledge that has characterized much of modern intellectual life. The philosopher Thomas Berry described the universe as a communion of subjects rather than a collection of objects. This phrase captures a crucial implication of the living universe perspective. If the cosmos possesses life-like qualities including some form of awareness, then our relationship with it involves not merely studying objects, but engaging with subjects, not merely manipulating resources, but participating in relationships. This shift from resource to relationship, from domination to dialogue, might transform how we approach everything from scientific research to technological development to economic systems. Consider how this perspective might influence science itself. The conventional scientific approach often emphasizes detached observation, with the scientist standing apart from the phenomenon under study. A living universe perspective suggests that scientific inquiry might also involve forms of participatory knowing, where the researcher engages in relationship with the subject of study, recognizing that observer and observed exist as parts of the same system in continuous interaction. This does not diminish the importance of methodological rigor, but it does expand the range of approaches through which we might understand the cosmos and our place within it. Technology, too, might evolve differently when developed from a living universe perspective. Rather than viewing technology primarily as a means to control nature, we might develop technologies that work with natural processes, mimicking nature's own strategies for creating complexity while maintaining balance. The emerging fields of biomimicry and regenerative design exemplify this approach, creating technologies inspired by natural systems and designed to enhance rather than deplete the living world. Future technological development might increasingly focus not on dominating nature, but on participating more consciously in its creative processes. Economic systems based on a living universe perspective would recognize that economic activity occurs within the context of both planetary and cosmic systems. Current economic models often treat natural resources as externalities, failing to account for the true environmental and social costs of production and consumption. A living systems approach to economics would internalize these externalities, recognizing that economic health ultimately depends on the health of the ecological and social systems within which economies operate. This might lead towards circular economies mimicking natural cycles, where waste from one process becomes food for another, and toward measures of success that include not just financial profit, but ecological integrity and human well-being. Education shaped by a living universe perspective would emphasize not just the acquisition of specialized knowledge, but the recognition of connections between different fields and the development of ecological awareness. Students would learn not just facts about the world, but ways of perceiving their participation in living systems across multiple scales, from local ecosystems to the planet to the cosmos itself. Education would cultivate what philosopher Gregory Bateson called the pattern that connects, helping students perceive the relationships that link them with the wider world, rather than seeing themselves as isolated individuals competing in a resource-limited environment. At a personal level, the living universe concept offers a cosmology that addresses the human need for meaning and belonging. Many people experience existential alienation within a worldview that portrays the universe as fundamentally lifeless and consciousness as an isolated phenomenon in an unconscious cosmos. A living universe perspective suggests that we belong to the cosmos in the most profound sense, our existence woven into its creative unfolding. Our individual lives, though brief within cosmic timescales, participate in processes that extend far beyond our limited lifespans, connecting us with both past and future. This sense of cosmic belonging does not necessarily answer all existential questions or resolve the inevitable challenges of human existence. Suffering, loss, uncertainty, and the knowledge of our own mortality remain part of the human condition, regardless of our cosmological views. Yet a living universe perspective might influence how we understand and respond to these challenges, helping us perceive them within larger contexts of meaning. Even death takes on different significance when understood not as absolute ending, but as transformation within ongoing cosmic processes, our physical elements returning to the cycles from which they emerged, perhaps to become parts of new living systems in the future. For some, a living universe perspective may hold spiritual significance, though not necessarily within conventional religious frameworks. It suggests that the creativity, intelligence, and awareness we experience directly might pervade the cosmos in forms we only dimly comprehend. This need not involve anthropomorphizing the universe or projecting human characteristics onto cosmic processes. Rather, it involves recognizing that the qualities we value most in human experience, including consciousness, creativity, and connection, might represent expressions of principles operating throughout the cosmos, rather than anomalous emergences in an otherwise lifeless universe. Many spiritual traditions speak of awakening to a more expanded identity that transcends the isolated ego, recognizing one's participation in larger fields of being. A living universe perspective offers a cosmological context for such awakening, suggesting that our deepest identity includes not just our individual personality, but our participation in the living cosmos that manifests through us. This recognition need not diminish the importance of individual uniqueness, but it does place that uniqueness within a context of relationship and belonging that transcends the boundaries of isolated selfhood. This expanded sense of identity carries ethical implications. If we recognize ourselves as expressions of a living cosmos, rather than as separate entities pursuing self-interest in an indifferent universe, our understanding of self-interest itself transforms. The well-being of the systems within which we exist becomes inseparable from our own well-being. The boundaries between selfishness and altruism blur, when we recognize that the self extends beyond our individual organism to include the relationships that sustain us. Ethics becomes not merely about following abstract rules, but about participating consciously in the web of relationships that constitutes our existence. The living universe perspective also offers a context for understanding human creativity. Our scientific discoveries, technological innovations, artistic expressions, and cultural developments need not be seen as impositions of human will upon an inert cosmos, but as the universe expressing its creative potential through human consciousness. When a musician composes a symphony, a scientist formulates a theory, or a community develops a sustainable way of living, the cosmos itself might be exploring new possibilities through these human activities, just as it explores possibilities through the evolution of stars, planets, and other living systems. This view does not diminish human responsibility for our actions. Indeed, it may enhance that responsibility by suggesting that through human consciousness, the universe has developed the capacity for intentional choice and ethical reflection. Our decisions matter not just for their immediate consequences, but for how they participate in the larger creative unfolding of the cosmos. Through human awareness, the universe can reflect upon itself and make conscious choices about its future development, at least within the sphere of human influence. As we prepare to conclude our cosmic contemplation, let us consider one final implication: the possibility that humanity represents not the pinnacle of cosmic evolution, but an early stage in an ongoing creative process. If the universe tends toward increasing complexity, integration, and consciousness, future developments might transcend current human capacities, just as human consciousness transcends earlier evolutionary forms. These developments need not involve superhuman beings replacing humans, but might emerge through the collective intelligence of human communities, the integration of biological and technological systems, or other creative possibilities we cannot yet imagine. This evolutionary perspective places human existence within a story still unfolding, inviting us to participate consciously in shaping that story through our choices. Rather than seeing history as random or predetermined, we might recognize that the future remains genuinely open, influenced but not determined by past patterns. Human decisions matter within this unfolding, not because we control the cosmos, but because we participate in its creative exploration of possibilities. Through conscious choice, we contribute to determining which potential futures actualize from the field of possibilities. Whether or not the universe literally qualifies as living according to biological definitions, contemplating it through the lens of life enriches our understanding of both cosmic processes and our place within them. This perspective bridges ancient wisdom and contemporary science, offering a cosmology that addresses both the human need for meaning and the intellectual need for coherence with our best understanding of physical reality. It invites us to recognize ourselves as expressions of cosmic creativity, neither separate from nature nor merely passive observers, but conscious participants in the universe's ongoing evolution. As you drift towards sleep beneath the canopy of stars, consider that you rest not in an alien cosmos, but in the body of a greater whole, of which you form an integral part. The rhythms of your breath echo the rhythms of cosmic expansion and contraction. The atoms comprising your body were forged in stellar furnaces billions of years ago, and the awareness through which you experience existence may represent one expression of the awareness inherent within or emergent from the cosmos itself. You sleep not as a stranger in an indifferent universe, but as a child of the cosmos, cradled in the processes that gave you birth and that continue to sustain your existence moment by moment. This recognition of cosmic belonging offers not escapism from human challenges, but a context for facing them with greater wisdom and compassion. By understanding ourselves as expressions of a living universe, we might develop ways of living that enhance rather than deplete the systems that sustain us, create technologies that work with rather than against natural processes, build economies that recognize our interdependence with the wider world, and cultivate forms of consciousness that perceive connections across artificial boundaries. Through such developments, we would participate more consciously and constructively in the creative unfolding of the cosmos of which we form a part. As our cosmic journey draws to a close, we return to the quiet wonder with which we began. The night sky stretches above, stars scattered like luminous seeds across the dark soil of space. Each point of light represents not merely a distant object, but a participant in the vast processes we have contemplated together, processes that might collectively constitute something akin to a living universe. The gentle rhythm of your breathing mirrors cosmic cycles of expansion and contraction, of stars being born and dying, of galaxies forming and evolving. With each inhalation, you draw in oxygen released by plants that captured energy from our sun, a third-generation star containing elements forged in previous stellar generations. With each exhalation, you release carbon dioxide that will become part of Earth's atmospheric cycles, perhaps eventually incorporated into new living forms. Your breath connects you to the metabolic processes that flow through our planet, and by extension, to the greater cosmic metabolism within which Earth's biosphere exists. As you rest, your body continues its countless internal activities, cells regenerating, heart pumping, neural patterns shifting in dreams. These processes unfold without your conscious direction, guided by the biological wisdom accumulated through billions of years of evolution. Similarly, the cosmos continues its creative processes across countless scales, from quantum fluctuations to galactic evolution, guided by patterns established throughout its 13.8 billion year history. Your body's intelligence and the universe's creativity flow from the same fundamental principles of organization, emerging from simplicity to complexity. The boundaries we typically perceive between ourselves and the wider world begin to soften as sleep approaches. The atoms composing your body came from the cosmos and will return to it. The energy animating your cells arrived from the sun and will dissipate back into environmental flows. The patterns of information encoded in your DNA, your neural connections, and your cultural knowledge emerge from evolutionary and historical processes extending far beyond your individual existence. You are not separate from these cosmic flows, but a temporary configuration within them, like a whirlpool in a river, maintaining your pattern while the substance flowing through you constantly changes. In the liminal space between wakefulness and dreams, you might sense this deeper connection that transcends ordinary perception. Many traditions describe this twilight consciousness as a state where deeper truths become accessible, where the constructed boundaries of the ego temporarily dissolve, allowing awareness of our participation in greater fields of being. Ancient wisdom and contemporary science converge in suggesting that the separate self represents not ultimate reality, but a useful construction, a wave pattern in the greater ocean of existence. As your awareness drifts towards sleep, imagine yourself not as an isolated entity, but as a cell within the body of the cosmos. Just as each cell in your body contains the complete genetic information of your organism, while expressing only the portions relevant to its particular function, you contain the potential of the entire universe expressed through your unique configuration. Your individual consciousness reflects the universe becoming aware of itself from a particular vantage point, one facet of the cosmic mirror contemplating its own nature. The stars overhead are not merely distant lights, but kindred entities, their processes of energy transformation echoing the metabolic processes occurring within your own cells. The space between stars is not empty, but filled with fields of energy and matter through which influences propagate, forming a cosmic connective tissue binding all things in relationship. The darkness itself represents not absence, but potential, the fertile void from which new forms continually emerge, just as your dreams emerge from the darkness behind closed eyelids. Throughout human history, people have recognized this intimate connection with the cosmos, expressing it through diverse cultural forms. Indigenous traditions speak of the earth as mother and the heavens as father, with humans existing as their children in a cosmic family. Eastern philosophical systems describe the inseparability of individual consciousness from universal awareness, using metaphors of waves in the ocean or ripples on the pond. Western mystical traditions speak of the divine spark present within each person, connecting individual existence with the greater mystery of being itself. Modern science offers its own poetry of cosmic connection. The carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and other elements essential to your body formed through nuclear fusion in stars that lived and died before our solar system existed. The intricate biochemistry enabling your consciousness emerged through evolutionary processes, extending back to the earliest life forms on Earth. The laws of physics and constants of nature that make your existence possible appear finely tuned to allow complexity to emerge. Through these scientific understandings, we recognize ourselves as expressions of cosmic creativity rather than accidental observers of an alien universe. As sleep approaches, you might sense yourself held within something greater than yourself. This is not merely poetic metaphor, but literal truth, recognized through different lenses by wisdom traditions and scientific understanding alike. You rest within the Earth's biosphere, which in turn exists within the solar system, itself a tiny part of the Milky Way galaxy, one among billions of galaxies throughout the observable universe. Each level of this nested hierarchy demonstrates patterns of organization and flow that resemble living processes, suggesting that you sleep not in an inanimate mechanism, but within the body of something that, in ways we only partially comprehend, might itself be alive. This recognition need not involve supernatural beliefs or departure from scientific understanding. Rather, it represents an expanded perspective on what constitutes life itself, recognizing that the boundaries we draw between living and non-living systems may reflect our limited perception rather than fundamental cosmic distinctions. The characteristics we associate with life, metabolism, growth, reproduction, responsiveness, and perhaps consciousness, appear throughout the cosmos in various forms and at different scales. Our own biological existence represents one expression of these broader patterns, rather than a phenomenon separate from or contrary to them. As consciousness fades towards sleep, the anxieties and preoccupations of daily life often diminish, revealing a deeper peace beneath the surface turbulence of thought. This peace does not come from escaping reality, but from experiencing it more directly, recognizing our participation in processes far greater than our individual concerns, yet intimately expressed through each moment of our existence. The living universe perspective offers a cosmology that contextualizes human experience within a meaningful whole, without denying the challenges and uncertainties inherent to conscious existence. In the space between thoughts, in the pause between breaths, in the silence beneath the internal dialogue, we might sense what many traditions have called our true nature, the ground of being from which individual existence emerges and to which it returns. This ground represents not nullity, but infinite potential, not absence, but the presence underlying all particular forms, not unconsciousness, but the awareness within which all specific objects of consciousness appear and disappear. In the approach to sleep, we touch this ground more directly as the constructed boundaries of waking identity temporarily dissolve. The cycles of waking and sleeping mirror cosmic cycles of manifestation and dissolution, of form emerging from formlessness and returning to it. Just as the universe evolves through phases of expansion and potential future contraction, of energy dispersing and concentrating, of complexity increasing and eventually returning to simplicity, our consciousness cycles between focused waking awareness and the dissolution of sleep. These natural rhythms remind us that all forms are temporary, arising and passing away within the greater whole that continues beyond any particular manifestation. Yet impermanence does not imply meaninglessness. Each configuration of the cosmos, including your individual existence, represents a unique expression never before manifested in precisely the same way and never to be exactly repeated. Your particular perspective, your experiences, your consciousness offers something irreplaceable to the cosmic whole. Through you, the universe explores possibilities unavailable through any other form. Your existence matters not despite, but because of its transience, a momentary flowering in the ongoing creativity of the cosmos. As you drift deeper towards sleep, imagine that the universe itself breathes with you, its vast processes of expansion and contraction mirrored in the gentle rise and fall of your chest. Imagine that its stars shine within you as the electrochemical signals of your neurons. Its galaxies spiral within you as the double helix of your DNA. Its creativity expresses through your dreams and aspirations. Imagine that its awareness manifests through your consciousness, the cosmos coming to know itself through the unique vantage point that is you. This perspective transforms sleep itself from mere unconsciousness to participation in the deeper rhythms of existence. In sleep, particularly in dreams, we often experience reality differently, transcending the limitations of waking logic and the boundaries of ordinary identity. We fly through impossible landscapes, converse with the dead, transform into other beings, experience time non-linearly. Perhaps these dream experiences reflect not mere fantasy, but connection with aspects of reality typically filtered out by our waking consciousness, offering glimpses of the more fluid, interconnected nature of existence, recognized by both mystical traditions and quantum physics. The creativity expressed through dreams, seemingly emerging spontaneously from the depths of our consciousness, mirrors the creativity of the cosmos itself, continually generating new forms and possibilities without external direction. The wisdom traditions suggest that by attending to dreams and other non-ordinary states of consciousness, we might develop greater awareness of our participation in this cosmic creativity, learning to engage with it more consciously in our waking lives as well. The boundary between sleeping and waking, like all boundaries, proves more permeable than it initially appears. As your consciousness releases into sleep, trust that you remain held within the processes that have sustained you throughout your existence. The same forces that formed stars and planets, that enabled life to emerge and evolve, that brought human consciousness into being, continue operating through every cell of your body and every facet of your mind. You need not maintain vigilant control, for you participate in natural rhythms guided by patterns far older and wiser than any individual awareness. In releasing into sleep, you practice the trust in existence that supports all life. Throughout the night, as your consciousness cycles through different states, from deep dreamless sleep to vivid dreaming to periods of semi-wakefulness, you participate in the cosmic dance of form and formlessness, of individuality and unity, of diversity and wholeness. Each state offers its gifts, its particular expression of the relationship between your individual consciousness and the greater field of awareness within which it exists. Each represents not an escape from reality, but immersion in a different aspect of its infinite depth and breadth. When morning comes, you will return to waking consciousness, transformed in subtle ways by this journey through the inner cosmos of sleep. Just as our contemplation of the living universe might transform how you perceive your relationship with the outer cosmos, the boundaries reassert themselves, the distinct identity of waking life returns, yet perhaps with greater awareness of the deeper connections underlying apparent separation. Each awakening offers an opportunity to perceive the world anew, to recognize the extraordinary within the ordinary, to experience more consciously our participation in the living whole. For now, rest in the embrace of the cosmic body, held within processes that extend far beyond your individual existence, yet express themselves uniquely through you. Sleep as a temporary expression of the universe's creativity, a configuration of stardust briefly animated by consciousness, a wave rising and falling in the cosmic ocean. Sleep, knowing that your existence matters not because it lasts forever, but because it offers something irreplaceable to the ongoing story of the cosmos. sleep within the body of the living universe, not as a stranger in an alien world, but as a child returned to its source, recognized and belonging. In the vastness, we are not alone. We are the universe, alive and breathing. Sleep now, cradled in the body of the cosmos.